Ladies and gentlemen, we have a new heavyweight champion of the world and his name is Francis Ngannou. What a fight! He's learned some lessons, right? He's certainly learned some lessons from the last time that he fought Stipe Miocic. And if you watched our Inside the Octagon episode with Walt Harris, he spoke about how that team have been preparing for Stipe ever since they first met. Every fight camp there was a percentage that was dedicated to doing what was necessary in order to beat the champion, and it's just paid dividends. Another thing that we learned about Francis is that he can take a shot, because the one that Stipe landed just before he got knocked out himself looked very similar to the one which helped him clinch the belt from Verdun. So he was kind of falling back and landed a hook of his own, but it made Francis like stutter for a second, but then obviously Francis fired back and that was the end. And it kind of fell into the trap of what Ngannou was trying to do as well, if we were to read into his post-fight analysis of what had just transpired. He is such a scary individual, but we saw that there are other elements of the game that he's embraced with, which are the more kind of intangible elements of patience and listening, strategy. It all kind of built to what we saw last night or early hours of this morning, and it was just beautiful work. Really was a stunning lead hand to then a clubbing hammer fist which shut out Stipe Miocic. It was a brutal knockout, and one which will obviously be played along with the other huge highlight reel that Francis Ngannou now possesses. But I want to talk a little bit about the significance of this, because this is a serious moment in sporting time, but particularly for mixed martial arts as well as the UFC, because we now have 3 African champions, which is phenomenal. I've thoroughly enjoyed seeing how the weight of championship belts typically resided in North America and Brazil, and that has slowly kind of released out to Poland, for example, the UK with Michael Bisping, Australia, and of course Africa as well. We have Nigeria with 2 belts, now we have Cameroon with 1. There are so many more athletes, individuals that will be inspired by the respective journeys. This is fantastic stuff. This is a movie, particularly Francis's journey, and it's so exciting. I know that Francis has been doing some wonderful work with his own foundation. He's got an academy in the village, not in the major cities, in the village where he grew up, I think, where he's got a jiu-jitsu program, a martial arts program. There's actually a guy from the UK that teaches Brazilian jiu-jitsu out there. I think his name is Sam. I'm sorry, Sam, I've forgotten your surname. But clearly doing wonderful work, and to be part of that journey is very special. But becoming the champion is something else. That will open so many more doors. He's going to have the key to not just the city, but to the country of Cameroon, now that he's achieved this greatness, taking out Stipe Miocic, who was the greatest heavyweight of all time. And, you know, let's not start scrubbing down the achievements of Stipe because of the way that they finished. We've got to remember that this is a heavyweight fight. So when things get finished, they get finished pretty spectacularly. So we have to sort of expect that, and maybe don't look too far into that when we consider someone's legacy. But I wanted to take this opportunity to speak about Francis and the interactions that I've had with him. I was very lucky to go out to France, Paris, France, for a couple of days for the UFC to film his main event feature before he fought Curtis Blades. And the conversations I had with him were very emotional. It was very difficult to listen to, and it just goes to speak to the crazy bravery and determination that Francis has shown throughout his journey, quite literally journey from Cameroon, and let's say the destination was Vegas and all the steps in between. So real quick, because I think now it's being told over and over on massive platforms, so that we're now quite used to this story. So starting the journey, it took a long time for Francis to even get to Morocco, you know, trying to cross a desert. And then when he got to Morocco, he started detailing some of his time there. And that was what really stuck with me, because he was staying in the forest and they would have lots of police officers and immigration control officers that would raid the forest, because this is where a lot of people that were trying to escape whatever the country it was to get to Europe would stay whilst they were trying to get money together and their opportunities to get on a boat to get across the water. And he would talk about that. He would talk about having to go down into the town and rummage around the rubbish, the trash, to find things to eat. He'd talk about like the bites and the lice and things of that nature that he had to live through. And this was, his English wasn't as good back then. He'd talk about the night animals and the night creatures that would attack them. And I hate to think, like, just living in constant fear. So many things to be fearful of. And I have no idea. I have not even close, one iota of what that must be like. So then he crosses the water, and anyone who lives in Europe will know the amount of casualties year on year that are taken from that crossing. And then he gets into Europe, and he is now, you know, that's a massive success for him. And then he's got to try and make his way, and he's homeless. And eventually finds his way to an MMA gym, the MMA Factory in Paris. He was in a soup kitchen just a few doors down. I've actually been there, and I saw the welcome that he got. He would he would work in the kitchen feeding the other homeless, and that was kind of the job that he was doing at the moment. And then he got taken in by Fernand Lopez just a couple of doors down from this place, and that's when his journey started. 5 years on, he got a shot at the UFC heavyweight title, and that's crazy. And this is the next part of his story that really stuck out to me, and I think he's now sort of told this, so I feel more comfortable sharing this. But he said he just didn't feel ready for everything else around the professional athlete's life that you would need when you're getting that kind of attention. He had no infrastructure to be able to deal with that. This was a man that had travelled alone for years to get to France from Cameroon, a solo journey, to now have the cameras of the world and the media staring at you all the time and giving their analysis, their thoughts, sometimes kind, sometimes not so kind, and building you up. And then when it didn't work and you came crashing down, I think it was a very long fall for Francis after he had gotten so far with so little. And that then makes it all the more incredible about how he's been able to overcome once again and climb back up. You know, create that infrastructure necessary so that he can prosper, both in life as a human, as a man, and also sporting wise, because they're not divorced from one another, as he was telling me. And that was fascinating to learn, and obviously very sad. And you know, what we see is only just a kind of microscopic view of that man's life, him as a professional athlete. There's so much more to it. And that was fascinating. So yeah, I got quite emotional listening to his story. We went around a couple of parts of Paris. I saw the parking lot, the car park where he would sleep when he was homeless. And then we went into this big park, this big open area where he would hang out during the day and speak to people, maybe watch a few fights. And yeah, we wandered around a little bit, and it got a little bit interesting at times because a few people would come over, and it was a bit unsavory, shall we say, a part of Paris that I probably wouldn't want to be by myself with a very expensive camera in my hand. But obviously we were there with the main man, so we were quite safe. Yeah, if you put yourself in Francis' position and you kind of watch his body language as he's retreading these steps, it was pretty special to be there and witness all of this. So I just wanted to share that with you, and now some people might think this is kind of a closing chapter. I hope for Francis that there are many more chapters to his story, and this is just the beginning, the new beginning as a champion. And already they've lined him up with a fight against John Jones. The promotional machine never stops, right? That's huge. That's going to be one of the biggest fights in UFC history if they can make it happen. Unbelievable. You know, congratulations once again to Eric Nixick as well. Dewey Cooper in the corner of Francis Ngannou. I think some credit also has to go to Fernand Lopez, the guy who made him all the beginnings of Francis's journey in Paris. So everyone can sit here quite proud today and remember this journey and their participation in that. But right now, you know, the moment is for Francis Ngannou, and what a moment it is.